Okay, Hare Krishna dear devotees. Pranam. We are reading Bhagavad Gita, chapter 11, Vishwarup Darshan Yoga, or the universal form. We'll say quick Manglacharan and start the reading. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadkamlam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Satam Sajivam साधुवेदं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णापादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्ता राधाकान्ता नमोऽस्तु ते तप्तकाञ्चना गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधरा श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 रामा 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 हरे हरे नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमती भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारणं परमानन्दमाधवं कृष्णचैतन्यईश्वरं गौरचन्द्राय राधिकाय तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्णभक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः
हरे कृष्णा
हरे कृष्ण. Okay, so let's go to 11th chapter. So we had done till 11.40. Anyone wants to share anything? Any reflections? Anybody read anything more or realizations? We are reading the universal form, the Vishwarup of Krishna. And Krishna has already shown his form to Arjuna, right? And Arjuna has glorified it, offered prayers to the form, and now he's apologizing to Krishna. That's what we will read in this particular verse. So, if no questions or comments, we'll start. Okay. Sakheti matva prasabham yaduktam
प्रसतभं यत् युक्तम्
हे कृष्ण हे यादव हे सखेति
हे
कृष्ण हे यादव हे सखेति
अजान्तमहिमानं तवेदम्
अजानतमहिमानं तवेदम्
मया प्रमादात् प्रणयेन वापि यच्चावहासार्थम् असत्कृतोऽसि विहार्षयासन् भोजनेषु
विहारसंन्यासनाभोजनेषु
एकोऽथवापि अच्युतात् समक्षम् तत्क्षामये त्वाम् अहं प्रमेयम्. Very good. So these are two shlokas together, 41 and 42. Would anyone like to read the translation?
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu.
Thinking of you as my friend, I have rashly addressed you, O Krishna, O Yadav, O my friend, not knowing your glories. Please forgive whatever I may have done in madness or in love. I have dishonored you many times, jesting as we relaxed, lay on the same bed, or sat or ate together, sometimes alone and sometimes in front of many friends. O infallible one, please excuse me for all those offenses. Hare Bol.
Very bold. Prabhuji, you want to share anything?
As we are discussing here, Mataji, that Arjuna has already glorified Krishna and everything that he saw, but now that he realized the glories that he saw the universal big form, all the material creation, how everything is starting and ending in Krishna, he is now actually apologizing and asking for forgiveness because before he didn't know about him. And so he's saying, whatever I may have done as a friend, thinking you as my friend when we sat together or, ate together. So please forgive me. So, like, basically, he he thought Krishna as just another person and who he was friend with, and so with a friend, how we do has parihas, chit chat, this that. So now that he realized he's not that person, he just everything, so he has to ask for forgiveness. Hari bol.
Very bold. Thank you, Prabhuji. Yeah. So he's saying that I've addressed you, I've rashly or rudely addressed you with various names. Sometimes I call you Krishna, sometimes I call you Yadav, sometimes Sakha, hey Sakheti, hey Yadava, hey Krishna, Sakheti Matva, thinking that you are just my friend, right? And in this way, I have presumptuously, prasabham is presumptuously, I have rudely addressed you. Ajananta Mahimanam, that I did not know your glories. I was unaware of, I was ignorant of your glories. And so in foolishness, either in foolishness, or Prabhupada is calling it madness, either in madness or foolishness, or out of love, I have committed these offenses against you, I have dishonored you. And he says, in the second verse, he says, Asat Krito. Asat Krito means I have insulted you or dishonored you. Sometimes uh, personally, sometimes publicly. Like sometimes we were just together, two of us, and I would make fun of you. And sometimes we were in front of other people and I would make fun of you while doing vihara, meaning while um, uh, engaged in various activities, or while we are uh, shayasana, meaning when we were resting, or bhojaneshu, when we were eating. So while doing all these activities, I would make fun of you. And he's calling him Achyut. If you see, Achyuta is one of the name of Krishna, right? Achyuta means infallible. Sometimes who cannot have a fall down. Someone who cannot have a fall down. Oh, infallible one. So the reason he says this name in this verse is because Krishna does not belong to this world, right? He cannot have a fall down. So he cannot be material. Somebody who has a fall down means somebody who is not transcendental, who is material, who is controlled by the three modes of material nature. Whereas Krishna is transcendental to the material nature. He's transcendental to the three modes. He's nirgun. He's beyond this material creation. So he's infallible. He's achyuta. And yet I thought you belonged to this world. You were just like me or my friends or other people. So that's why he's calling you are infallible. And I thought you were of this world, basically. That's what he's saying. So sometimes in front of other people, tat samaksham. And so he's saying, please give me forgiveness and excuse me for all these immeasurable, apramyam, all these immeasurable offenses. So many offenses I have committed against you. So in this way, he's apologizing. But those if we've been reading Bhagavad Gita now for 10, 11 chapters, we understand we've been talking about the personal aspect of Krishna, the Bhagwan aspect of Krishna that likes to have loving exchanges, relationships with his devotees, right? So actually, a devotee understands that Krishna is not at all offended by being called Krishna or Yadav or Sakheti, right? People call, they have their small Laddu Gopal, right? And people treat that Laddu Gopal as their son. They have relationship, they have exchanges with that little deity. They call him Laddu Gopal Khanira, isko nehlao. ऐसे you know how they talk about the deity. And this is a reverential. This is God that they are trying to feed. They are trying to bathe, right? So Krishna likes to be in that position where his devotees are taking care of him. He likes to be in that position where his devotees can be very open and free with him. So he actually loves that kind of exchanges with his devotees, right? That's why he appears as Vigra or deity, so that he puts himself in a dependent situation, so that we are feeding him, we are bathing him, we are changing his clothes, right? So he becomes dependent on us just so that he can have, so that we can relish these loving exchanges with him, right? So, and this is why he had put himself in this situation, in this whole scene where Arjun was able to relate with him as a friend and never understood that Krishna is actually the Param Bhagwan, Param Parameshwar, Jagan Nivasa, Jagannath, right? So, and we read before actually in 10th chapter how Krishna likes those, even those names. Krishna has infinite names, right? He has so many names, infinite names. But he likes those names which describe his relationship with his devotees. So he really relishes those relationships. Like he likes to be called Yashoda Nandan, right? Or Nandan, Devaki Nandan, Parth Sarthi, right? Who's Parth? Arjun. He's the Sarthi of Arjun. Parth Sarthi likes to be called that. Um, you remember that song? Yashoda Dulala Govinda Gopala Vrindavana Purandara Gopi Priya Jana Radhika Ramana Bhuvan Sundar Bhara, right? Yogendra Bandana Srinandanandana Brajajana Bhayahari Navina Nirad Rupa Manohar Mohana Vamsi Vihari. So he likes those names. That song is full of his names. That song is full of his relationships with his devotees, right? Yogendra Bandhan, Sri Nandanandan, Yashoda Dulal, Vraja Jana Bhayahari, Vrindavana Purandara, relationship with Vrindavan, relationship with gopis, Gopa Vrindapal. So he likes all those names where his relationships with devotees is actually mentioned. But Arjun, an ordinary human really thinks that we have to worship Krishna, we have to hold him in awe and wonder. So he's thinking in his mind that I have committed offense against Krishna. But Krishna actually relishes those relationships. So that's all I wanted to share. Anybody else has any thoughts or comments on this? It also reminds me of how when Lord Ram was embracing, so Hanuman was trying to touch his feet, right? And Lord Ram lifted him and embraced him, right? But when he embraced, Hanuman was feeling a little, oh no, this is my Prabhu, this is my Thakur. How can he embrace me? So he was a little, withdrawn. This was not like a very full, proper embrace where Hanumanji is also embracing. Hanumanji is like, shy. So Lord Ram and this devotees describe this, that Lord Ram had that feeling that I want that relationship, not of dasya bhav with a devotee, but a relationship where my friend will fully embrace me, will fully exchange love with me when I embrace him, right? And so as Krishna, he got to enjoy that with all the Gopas and with Arjun and other Pandavas and so many other friends he had in his Krishna Leelas. Similarly, it reminds me of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when Sanatan Goswami, so if you know that pastime, Sanatan Goswami once had a very bad skin disease on his body, and his body was like full of these boils or like pus oozing out of these boils, right? So he would not even go to the temple. He would not even go meet Mahaprabhu. And Mahaprabhu inquired about Sanatan Goswami. What happened? I have not seen him in days. And so he came to meet him. And Sanatan Goswami said, Prabhu, please don't come near me. My body is very, very contaminated right now. You cannot touch me. And Mahaprabhu just embraced Sanatan Goswami. And he was feeling so bad that my body is so contaminated. How can Prabhu embrace me like this? But he does not, Krishna does not care. So yes, our body is contaminated and we are not fit to have these relationships with him. But he, with his pure devotees, he relishes those relationships. Whether eating, sleeping, lying down, walking, like Arjun is describing, he loves those exchanges. Anything else? Nirbhay Prabhu, you want to share anything or anybody else? Okay, then we'll go to the next one. 43, 11.43. पितासि लोकस्य चर अचरस्य
Pita
पितासि
लोकस्य
लोकस्य
चराचरस्य
चराचरस्य
त्वमस्य पूज्यश्च गुर्गरीयान्
त्वमस्य पूज्यश्च
गुरुर्गरीयान्
गुरुर्गरीयान्
न त्वत्समोऽस्ति अभ्यधिका कुतोऽन्यो
त्वत्समोऽस्ति
अभ्याधिकाकुतोऽन्यो
अभयाधिकाकुतोऽन्यो
लोकत्रयेऽप्यप्रतिमा प्रभावा
लोकात्रयेऽपि
अप्रतिमा
अप्रतिमा प्रभावा
Okay, can somebody read this translation?
You are the father of this complete cosmic manifestation, of the moving and the non-moving. You are its worshipable chief and the supreme spiritual master. No one is greater than you, nor can anyone be with you. How then could there be anyone greater than you within the three worlds, O Lord of immeasurable power? Hare Krishna.
Okay, so this is again he's glorifying Krishna that you are the father, Pitasi, of everything. You are the Pita or the father of this whole world, Lokasya, and of everything that is in the inside, right? Moving, non-moving, unmoving, whatever entities are there. You are the origin and the father of everything. And you are its worshipable chief. So you are the chief person that should be worshipable, Puja, Guru, and you are the spiritual master, the supreme. You are the Jagat Guru, the Param Guru, right? And no one is greater than you. No one is similar to you. No, there is Krishna is one without second, right? He says that he has said that many times before. He's one without second, and Arjun is also saying that you're the only one. Nobody is greater than you, and so there cannot be anybody in the three lokas, in lokatraya api. Nobody can be greater than you in all the three worlds, and your prabhava means your power, your forces are immeasurable, apratima. Your forces, your energies, your power cannot be measured, they are infinite. So in this way, he's glorifying Krishna, right? We've read about how Krishna is the father, the mother, the guru, the pitama or the great grandfather of everything, right? And does someone remember where does Krishna say that no one is greater than me, that I'm one without second? Krishna said that himself a few chapters back.
अहं सर्वस्य प्रभुः
That's where he says that he's the origin of everything, right? So that, yeah.
मत्तः
So do you want to recite that?
अहं सर्वस्य प्रभुः मत्तः सर्वं प्रवर्तते इति मत्वा भजन्ते मां बुधा भावसमन्विता.
So what does that mean?
So I'm the cause of everything. Aham sarvasya prabhu, matta sarvam pravart. Everything emanates from me. Iti
Yeah,
matta bhajante mam. Those who know this and they worship me with this, those are the intelligent people. Buddha bhava samanvita.
yeah. Aham sarvasya prabhu means everything comes from me, right? So something similar he said in the first line here. And where does he say no one is greater than me? One of the kids should know. I'll give a hint if you want. 7th chapter. Matta partaram nanyat. Right? You want to recite? Anybody? Yes, Vadi.
Mata partaram nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya mai sarvamidam protam sutirmani ganaiva.
Do you know the translation?
That's the one where he says, like how the
Everything
pearls
is,
are strung on a thread, everything rests upon me, and there is no truth superior to me.
Matta partaram nanyat means that nobody is superior to me, nobody is greater than me. There is no one. Krishna is the one without second, that there is nobody who comes even close to Krishna. So that is, no one is greater than him, he says. But there are many, many verses, right, that describe his power, his immeasurable forces. And in the part, Prabhupada is saying, he's talking about how Krishna is a supreme spiritual master. So Prabhupada is saying that without being a representative of Krishna, one cannot become a teacher or spiritual master of transcendental subject matter. That if you're trying to learn spirituality, if you're trying to achieve the path of self realization, or you're trying to uh, teach or preach this matter, the spiritual matter, then you have to be a representative of Krishna. Why? Because from the origin of spiritual world, everything comes from Krishna. So unless somebody um, takes Krishna into account, you cannot become a teacher or a spiritual master. So that is why all those people that are trying to teach the self-realization or spiritual subject matters but have no Krishna in the midst of it are, according to Prabhupada, not really the true spiritual masters. You have to be a representative of Krishna. If everything comes from him and you just eliminate him out of the matter, then how can that be the true self-realization or true spirituality? And towards the end, Prabhupada has quoted a verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela. He says, and this is very commonly quoted, Ekale Ishvara Krishna Ar Sabhritya, that only Krishna is God and everyone else is his servant. Everyone is just complying with his order. There is no one who can deny his order. Everyone is acting according to his direction under his superintendence. So he is the cause of all causes. So this is an important verse. Ekale Ishvara Krishna Ar Sabhritya. That he is the only God. Everybody else is under his service or subordinate to him. He is the superintendent. Okay. So anybody wants to add anything or share anything? If not, we can keep moving. So Arjun is continuing his prayers. He'll continue for next 3 more verses and then Krishna will speak. Let's read these. 11.44. Tasmat pranamya pranidhaya kayam
तस्मात् प्रणम्य प्रणिधाय कायम्
prasadaya tvamahamishamidhyam
प्रसादयत्वाम्
Prasadayatvam
अहमीश्वरमित्यम्
piteva putrasya sakheva sakhyo
पितेव पुत्रस्य सखेव सख्युः
priya priyaya rasideva sodum
प्रिया प्रियाय
Deva
सोढुम्.
You are the Supreme Lord, to be worshipped by every living being. Thus I fall down to offer you my respectful obeisances and ask your mercy. As a father tolerates the impudence of his son, a friend the impertinence of a friend, or a husband the familiarity of his wife, please tolerate the wrongs I may have done to you. Horrible.
So Arjun is still apologizing. He's continuing to apologize that you are the father, you are the supreme guru, you are the mother, you are the pitama, you are the origin of all living and non-living entities, everything, right? So you are to be worshipped by every living being. So he's establishing a fact that means we should all worship you. We should not treat you like our friend or the way I treated you, make fun of you and all this. So please, he's asking for mercy. He's asking for forgiveness. I offer you my obeisances and ask your mercy. And he's saying that just like a father tolerates, so like a basically a parent, how they tolerate even if a kid does something wrong, right? They tolerate the impudence. So just tolerate it like that. Or the impertinence. A friend is very casual with another friend, right? We make fun of each other or crack jokes at each other. So just like a friend tolerates the impudence of a friend, कि ये तो दोस्त है, कोई बात नहीं, चलता है, right? So that way just tolerate. Or a priya rasi, like a lover tolerates his dearmost, or husband that of the familiarity of his wife, or vice versa. Please tolerate the wrongs I may have done you. So in this way, basically how we tolerate any loved one's impudence, right? Any loved one. It could be even a child tolerating his parents, or a parent tolerating his children, or friends, each other, or husband tolerating wife, the familiarity. So in this way, just forgive me and tolerate those wrongs I have done to you, and I offer you obeisances. Ask for your mercy. So in this way, he's apologizing. So I think that's a straightforward one. Prabhupada hasn't given much purport on this. And is that okay? Can we move? Yes, okay. 11.45. अदृष्टपूर्वं ऋषितो अस्मि दृष्ट्वा
दृष्टपूर्वं वेष्टितोऽस्मि दृष्ट्वा
भयेन च प्रागतितं मनो मे
भयं च प्रव्याहृतिं मनो मे
तदेव मे दर्श देवरूपम्
तदेव
दर्शय
दर्शय देवरूपम्
प्रसीद देवेश जगन्निवास
प्रसीद देवेश जगन्निवास Raina, can you read?
After seeing this universal form, which I have never seen before, I am gladdened, but at the same time my mind is disturbed with fear. Therefore, please bestow your grace upon me and reveal again your form as the personality of Godhead, O Lord of Lords, O abode of the universe. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So he's saying, so he's having mixed feelings. He's having two feelings here. He says, after seeing this universal form, adrishtva purvam, which has never been seen before, which I've never seen before. Rishita. I didn't know Rishita means gladdened. That I'm feeling very happy or glad to see this, but also fearful, bhayena, out of fear, and I'm feeling perturbed. My mind is getting perturbed or disturbed. So so why is he feeling glad? He's feeling glad to know that his friend turned out to be Supreme Person, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who's full of so many opulences and powers and energies and infinite qualities. He's the source of everything. He's the father, mother of everything. So he's the supreme worshipable object of everything. So now knowing that, I'm feeling very gladdened, but also he's not used to seeing this form. He's only used to seeing the two-handed, the beautiful form of Krishna. So seeing this huge Karal Ugra Roop of Krishna, he's feeling his mind is getting a little bit disturbed and fearful also. So he's saying that I'm getting also disturbed. So now he's making a request from Krishna. Before he apologized, and now he's requesting that reveal again your form as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's actually going to ask Krishna to show him the four-handed form. In the next verse, we'll see, he'll say that show me your Chaturbhuj Roop. This roop with the infinite arms is too fearful, too disturbing for me. So I want to see the four-handed or the Chaturbhuj, the Narayan form of you. He will say in the next verse, you'll see. So he's saying, Prasida, please be happy, please be gracious upon me, please be merciful upon me, and show me the Jagan Nivasa, the Lord, O Lord of Lords, O refuge of the world, show me that Narayan form, the Chaturbhuj Roop. So in the next verse, he'll ask for the four-handed form. So let's see if Krishna will comply with his wish. So first he asked for showing him the universal form, which he saw. He described it, he glorified it, he got disturbed by it, he offered obeisances to it, apologized to it, and now he's saying, please retract this form, withdraw this form, and show me the four-handed form. We'll say that in the next verse. Let's recite this. 11.46. Kiritinam gadinam chakrahastam
Kiritinam gadinam chakra
Chakrahastam
nichami tvam drashtumaham tathaiva
Chandrashtamaham tathaiva
तेनैव रूपेण चतुर्भुजेन
तेनैव रूपेण चतुर्भुजेन
सहस्रबाहो भव विश्वमूर्ते
सहस्रभावो भव विश्वमूर्ते. I can read. Hare Krishna.
Yes, ma'am.
O universal form, O thousand-armed Lord, I wish to see you in your four-armed form, with helmeted head and with club, wheel, conch, and lotus flower in your hands. I long to see you in that form. Haribol.
So, like we discussed, so Krishna is saying, oh, thousand-armed Lord. Right now he's Sahasrabahu, right? And the Vishwa form, Vishwarupa, his oh universal form, oh thousand-armed form. I wish to see you in your Chaturbhuj Roop. That Tenev Rupen Chaturbhujena, that four-handed form, right? And remember that there is Shank, Chakra, Gada, Padam in each hand, right? So Shank is conch, Chakra is the disc, right? Gada is the club, and Padam is the lotus, right? So those are the four things that four arms are holding. That is a Narayan form. And he's saying, show me that Narayan form. Ichhami tvam drashtum aham tathaiva. That form which has the crown, Kirtinam is the helmet or the crown, Gadinam is the club, Chakrahastam, the disc in the hand. That four-handed form, please show me instead of this thousand-arm universal form. And in the purport, Prabhupada is discussing somehow the purport is, I'm sorry, this was in the purport of the previous shloka. Let me read that very quick. Arjuna therefore is asking Krishna to show his Narayan form because he can assume any form. This universal form is material and temporary, as the material world is temporary. But in the Vaikuntha planets, he has his transcendental form with four hands as Narayan. There are innumerable planets in the spiritual sky, and in each of them Krishna is present by his plenary manifestation of different names. So Arjuna desired to see one of the forms manifest in the Vaikuntha planets, right? So remember that, and let's actually finish reading this. Of course, in each Vaikuntha planet, the form of Narayan is four-handed, but the four hands hold different arrangements of the symbols, the conch shell, mace, lotus, and disc. According to the different hands these four things are held in, the Narayanas are variously named. All of these forms are one with Krishna, therefore Arjuna requests to see this four-handed feature. So it is actually, Prabhupada has already described this in the previous purport, but Arjuna is requesting this here, that now I want to see this Narayan form or the Chaturbhuj Roop of you. And Prabhupada is discussing in the purport that all these Vaikuntha planets, who's the worshipable deity there? It is? Who's the worshipable deity in the Vaikuntha planets?
Narayan.
Narayan, right? And there are so many Vaikuntha planets. So, and all these Narayan forms, they are all four-handed forms, right? We understand that. And they are all holding one object, but the arrangement in which they are holding in each arm differs, okay? So typically when we say Shank, Chakra, Gada, Padam, means Shank is up here, Chakra in the right lower hand, Gada in the left lower hand, and Padam in the top upper hand. So it goes like this: Shank, Chakra, Gada, Padam. But this arrangement of these, the way they are holding these four objects in the four hands, can be different with different Narayana forms. And those Narayana forms are named differently also. Okay. So there are various names. For example, one of the Narayana form is called Keshava. Somebody is called Madhava. Another is called Padmanabh. Another is called Damodar. One is called Sridhar. One is called Vaman. So in this way, there are many, many names of different Narayan forms, and they differ. They all look similar. They are all four-handed Chaturbhuj Roop, but they are holding the four objects in different arrangements. So that's what Prabhupada is describing in that purport. Is that clear? So that worshipable form is what Arjun now wants to see. He's seen this fearsome, ferocious form. Now he wants to see this form which is pleasant, which we can exchange. Not loving relationship with Narayan. Typically, it's very worship like mood, right? Like this is Bhagwan, and so we have very awe and veneration towards that form. So he wants to see that four-handed form. So there are many, many forms actually. If you read in Bhagavatam or Chaitanya Charitamrita, all these Narayan forms, various manifestations, various incarnations of Krishna are described. And these uh, incarnations are described as like waves in the ocean. They count. There's so many. There are you cannot count them. They keep coming, right? Similarly, incarnations of Krishna are so numerous. The 10 incarnations that we typically talk about are the very prominent ones, right? They're either the Yuga or the Leela avatars that we talk about. But these incarnations are like waves in the ocean. In different planets, Krishna is appearing at all times in different species, right? In different planets and different species, he keeps appearing. So those incarnations are too hard to understand. And similarly, these manifestations with which he rules various Vaikuntha planets are also very difficult to understand. But the basic understanding is that they're all four-handed, they're all Narayan forms, and they rule the Vaikuntha planets. Is that okay? Is that clear, or was it difficult? Anybody wants to add or share anything? And then Prabhupada in this particular verse is quoted a verse from Brahma Samhita 5.39, which I'll share very quick here. Would one of the kids like to recite this in that same rhythm as uh, Achyutam Anadil? Yes, Avni, go ahead.
Ramadimurtisrukala niyamena tistan nanavar. Oh, sorry.
We'll recite after. Namadimutishu kala niyamena
Niyamin Krishan
Nana Vataram Akarod Bhuvaneshu Kintu
Nana Avataram Akarod
Bhuvaneshu
Bhuvaneshu
Kintu
Krishnas Param Samabhavat Paramapumanyo
Krishna
Krishna
Swayam Samabhavat Parma Pumanyo
Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami.
Govindam Adi Purusham.
Bhajami.
Can you read the translation?
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who manifested himself personally as Krishna and the different avatars in the world in the forms of Rama, Narasimha, Vamana, etc. as his subjective portions. Haribol.
So in this, Prabhupada has quoted this verse. That's why I wanted to show it, that those incarnations and various manifestations are innumerable, right? But Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. So he's now asking to see this form of Narayana. Remember that we just read that that universal form is temporary and material form. It only exists when the material world is existing. But this form of Narayana is the spiritual form. It is the transcendental form, right? It rules the spiritual planet. So this is a higher, better form of Krishna. Do the kids have to leave for the class? Yeah? Okay. Okay. So who all? Avni, Vaidehi, Nabya, and is that it?
Yes, I
Okay.
think.
Okay. Uh, yeah, you're okay to leave, guys. If you have to join, I think you should join a little bit before. And we'll just read just maybe 2 or 3 more and hoping to finish the chapter by next time. Let's see. So now Krishna is speaking, right? Let's see if he will comply with Arjuna and show the Narayan form or not. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
श्रीभगवानुवाच
Maya Prasannena Tavarjunedam
मया प्रसन्नेन त्वार्जुनेदम्
Rupam Param Darshitam Atmayogat
रूप
Rupam param
Param
darshtimatma
yoga.
Tejomayam Veshwamanantamadyam
तेजो
Tejo
विश्वम्
anantam
अनन्तम्
madhyam.
यन्मे त्वदन्येन दृष्टपूर्वम्
यन्मे
तदन्येन न दृष्ट्वपूर्वम्
Tadashtapurvam. I can read this, Mataji.
Yes, ma'am.
Hari Bol. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Arjuna, happily have I shown you by my internal potency, this supreme universal form within the material world. No one before you has ever seen this primal form, unlimited and full of glaring effulgence. Hari Bol.
Would you like to share anything?
No, not really.
Okay. Okay.
Oh,
So in this, so now Krishna is speaking that, oh my dear Arjuna, I've shown you this form happily, prasannena. Right? Krishna is very eager to fulfill the wishes of his devotees, and somebody like Arjun, who was such a close friend, who was requesting humbly and seeking all the spiritual knowledge in the proper fashion, proper mood. Krishna was more than happy to comply with his wishes. So he requested so humbly, so submissively, wanting to know all the truth, all the absolute truth, that Krishna showed him happily this form by my internal potency. So we know that internal potency is the Antaranga Shakti of Krishna, right? It is the superior energy of Krishna, basically Yog Maya, right? And this is the form, this is the energy that enables Krishna in various incarnations to do all kind of pastimes, right? This is the energy by which Krishna does all the pastimes with Mother Yashoda or with gopis or with gopas. And this is the energy that we are trying to seek shelter of, right? Remember in 9th chapter we read Mahatma Anastu Mampartha Devim Prakritim Ashrita. That we want that Mahatmas or the great persons seek shelter of the superior energy of Krishna, right? And we end up taking shelter of the inferior energy of Krishna, the Mahamaya, which is the Bahiranga Shakti, right? Whereas Krishna always consorts only with the superior energy or the internal potency, also known as Yog Maya, or one more name.
Radharani.
Yes, Radharani, right? So he only consorts with Radharani. This is the energy that we have to take shelter of, the internal potency. So he said, by my internal potency, I have shown you happily this form, the supreme form within this material world. And no one has seen this form before you, right? Na drishtva purvam, this primal, this unlimited form, full of all this glaring effulgence. So, and we'll see that in the purport, actually, Prabhupada mentions that the way Arjuna pleased Krishna is the way we should also try to please Krishna by serving him, by humbly, submissively requesting from him for our own spiritual progress, not for any material hankerings, not for lamentations, not for, and that is the proper route. and he cannot be pleased by anything else. He cannot be pleased. In the next verse also we'll read that he cannot be pleased by any studying Vedas or by penances or charities or pious activities, all the dan, punya. Yes, that dan, punya, sacrifices, yagyas, austerities, they're helpful in some spiritual advancement, but but it is not necessarily that they will please Krishna, right? Krishna can only be pleased by his mercy, by his causeless mercy. So by those things you can attract some mercy, but really those are not the recommended paths. And in 8th chapter also Krishna had said that those Vedeshu, Yagyeshu, Tapsu Chaiva, right? Or in all, out of all these processes, Daneshu Tat Sarvam Idam Viditva, that out of all these processes, Ateti Tat Sarvam Idam Viditva, that my devotee exceeds all of these processes. You may follow the process of giving charities, doing punya, doing sacrifices, reading Vedas, austerities, all this. You can do all of that. But my devotee knows Ateti tat sarvam idam viditva. He knows that he will exceed the result of all of these other activities by indulging in devotional service. So the devotee actually does not, he does some tapasya, yes, he acquires some knowledge, yes, he will do some charity, some pious activities, but they are all with Krishna in the center. They all become part of his devotional service, not separate from Krishna. So he cannot be pleased by anything else but by his own causeless mercy, basically, not by own efforts, really. People that do tapasya, they are trying to achieve self-realization by their own efforts, but our own efforts can fail. Krishna's efforts will not fail. So we are saying, Krishna, you make the effort for us. Okay, is that okay? Anybody wants to share anything? Shall we read one or two more? Na veda yajna adhyayanir nadane.
न वेदयज्ञानयद्धायनेर्न दानेर्
Na cha kriyabhirna tapobhirugre.
Nacha kriya
क्रियाभिर्न तपोभिरुग्रे
Evam रूपा शक्याहं नृलोके
एवं रूपा शक्या अहं नृलोके
द्रष्टुं त्वदन्येन कुरु प्रवीरा.
drashtum
दृष्टुं त्वदनेन कुरु प्रवीरा.
Can someone read this?
O best of the Kuru warriors, no one before you has ever seen this universal form of mine, for neither by studying the Vedas, nor by performing sacrifices, nor by charity, nor by pious activity, nor by severe penances, can I be seen in this form in the material world. Hari Bol.
Would you want to share something?
As you were mentioning, Mataji, what Krishna is saying here, that the universal form that he showed to Arjuna, it was the only one time that he showed to him. And he's saying that whatever he could see, no one has before seen like this. By doing all the different kind of activities that are mentioned in the Vedas, that person can do a self-realization, as mentioned here, like doing studying the Vedas or performing a lot of sacrifices or charity or doing a lot of activities, pious activities, and even the severe penance. So what Krishna is saying, like, this is like really like one in lifetime thing that you have seen, that I shown you. And so very special darshan that Arjun got because of the mercifulness of the Krishna, that by, as we have discussed, that he just bestow all the mercy on the devotees. So Arjuna was his best devotee, so he just showed him the universal form. That's what here Krishna is emphasizing, that yes, no one has seen this before.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you. So yeah, Krishna is, Prabhuji mentioned, emphasizing that all these other activities, like by sacrifices, by studying Vedas, by doing pious activities, by doing austerities, penances, or charity, right? All these 5 or 6 activities, these are considered very important in this material world, right? We think that these activities are what will lead to a self-realization, right? But actually, Krishna is refuting that. He's saying, imagine that even this universal form, which is not the highest form, which is just a material temporary form, even to see that, Krishna is saying, you need my mercy, not any of these activities. So, and the problem with doing these activities is that we are relying more on our own efforts, right? We are thinking that if we do a lot of enough charity or enough sacrifices or study the Vedas enough, we're relying on our own abilities, right? But all the abilities are given by Krishna. All the efforts are made possible by Krishna. So if instead of relying on our own abilities, if we just leave things up to Krishna and do even these activities with that consciousness, basically Krishna consciousness, keeping Krishna in the center, then these activities have a meaning. Then these activities become actually devotional service, right? They don't, otherwise they're just dan, punya, they just keep you entangled in this cycle of birth and death. You can do dan, punya, pious activities, and you can go to higher planets. You can enjoy in Swarga for many years. Actually, it is said that if somebody, even by doing prescribed duties, right, somebody could do prescribed duties and they think, okay, we can get self-realization. But no, just by doing, if somebody does their prescribed duties properly, 100% accurately for about 100 lifetimes, okay, then he can be promoted to the planet of Brahmalok. And we know that Brahmalok is also just the highest platform in the material world, but it is not in the spiritual world. So spending 100 lifetimes carrying out your prescribed duties according to Varnashram Dharma perfectly, 100% perfectly, then you get to Brahmalok. Imagine so much effort, so much hard work is needed. And there in the Brahmalok, you stay there for about what, 1,000 years? And this is Brahma years. Remember that each Brahma's lifetime is about 100 years, which is trillions of our years. So how much time you're wasting? So by doing all these activities, you got promoted to a very high destination and you're enjoying there, right? You're enjoying there, but so much time, so many trillions of years you wasted. Whereas all you needed was just one human form of life to carry out devotional service 100% perfectly, to carry out the bhakti perfectly, and you could have gone to the Golota, you could have gone to spiritual planets, right? So by doing pious activities, people will be promoted to high planets, but actually it is just wasting time because you will be there enjoying and indulging in sense gratification. So many resources are there to enjoy yourself, right? This is all bhog yoni. It's very hard to perform devotional service over there. And so you will enjoy after many lifetimes, you will again come back to human form and then hopefully you will get devotional service. So those activities are helpful if they are done with Krishna consciousness, with keeping Krishna in center. But if we do them solely by our own effort, just trying to achieve self-realization and thinking that we'll be able to get out of cycle of birth and death by just doing yagyas and all this, reading Vedas, like Jnani people do, right? Then it takes bahunam janmanam ante jnanvan mam prapadyate. Right? So this is the import of this one. So just the time is very valuable. Human form of life is very valuable. It is just very rare opportunity. We have to just make best use of this. Human life comes with a lot of problems, with a lot of diseases, miseries, old age, death, whatnot, losses, so many things. But a lot of devotees, this is what they like to say, that intelligent person is somebody who makes best use of a bad bargain. So the human life is actually a bad bargain, right? Because we are suffering so much in this form. But the best use of this bad bargain is to engage in devotional service and make the best use of this time so that we can get out of here. So we have to make this time so useful that even if the mrityu, the death comes today, right now, you go to Bhagavad Dham straight. Imagine that death can come anytime, right? But that is how we have to speed up our devotional service. अभी कुछ हो जाए, अभी भगवत धाम पहुंच जाओ. But we just think that we have a lot of time. So, anyways, that's all I wanted to share. Anybody else would like to add or share anything more? Shall we read one or two more? Finish 50. Is that okay? माते व्यथा मा च विमूढभावो
माते व्यथा मा च विमूढभावो
दृष्ट्वा रूपं घोरं निद्रिन्ममेदम्
दृष्ट्वा रूपं घोरम् इदं ममेदम्
व्यपेतभिप्रीतमना पुनस्त्वम्
व्यपेतभिप्रीतमना
पुनस्त्वं
तदेव मे रूपमिदं प्रपश्य
तदेवमेव रूपमिदं
प्रपश्य
प्रपश्य.
Hare Krishna. You have been perturbed and bewildered by seeing these horrible features of mine. Now let it be finished. My devotee, be free again from all disturbances. With a peaceful mind, you can now see the form you desire. Hari Bol.
Actually, Avinash, can you read part of this?
This one? Okay.
Let's read from here.
Yeah, okay. The purpose of revelation of the universal form was shown. Now Arjuna wanted to see the armed form, and Krishna showed him. A devotee is not much interested in the universal form, for it does not enable one to reciprocate loving feelings. Either a devotee wants to offer his respectful, worshipful feelings, or he wants to see the two-handed Krishna form so that he can reciprocate in loving service with the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Thank you. Okay, so Krishna is agreeing that you have been very disturbed. Mate vyatha, vyathit ho gaye ho, vimood bhavo, in this bewilderment. You've gone into this bewildered feeling and become disturbed. Drishtva rupam ghoram idam. By seeing this fearful, horrible feature of mine, this ghor roop of mine, you become very disturbed and bewildered. Now let it be finished. My devotee, be free from the disturbances and be pleased in mind. Pritamana punastvam, be again pleased in mind, and I will show you this form that you want to see. Okay, Rupamidam Prapashya, that the form that you want to see, I'll show you that. And in the purport, Prabhupada is describing that the purpose of revelation of the universal form was basically to show Arjuna that all these irreligious people who had committed all these sinful acts, especially the one of disrobing Draupadi in the assembly of Kurus, Bhishma and Drona were silent. And so for that negligence of duty, they should be killed. And Krishna had shown that I have already killed them. By showing this universal form, he had shown how all the people that did unlawful things, right? Such a great offense against a great devotee of the Lord, Mother Draupadi. For that, Krishna wanted to punish these people. And he's assuring Arjuna that I have already killed these people. So now I will show you the form that you want to see. So that was the purpose of the revelation of that universal form. And now Arjuna wants to see the four-armed form, Chaturbhuj Rupa of Krishna, which he will show next. And Prabhupada is also explaining that devotee is not interested that much in universal form because you cannot either worship him, worship this form, or you can exchange loving relationships. No, none of those is possible. Only you can be bewildered and disturbed and afraid of this form, which is suitable to scare the demons or the irreligious people. But for devotees who are very peaceful, very calm in mind, very quiet people, right? they want to have loving relationships or worshipful feelings, but either of those two. So next you will see the four-armed form of Krishna. So let's read this. So now Sanjay is speaking. Sanjay Uvacha.
Sanjay Uvacha.
Iti Arjunam Vasudevastatoktva.
Iti
Arjunam Vasudevastatoktva
Swakam Rupam Darshayama Bhuya.
Swakam Rupam Darshayamasa Bhuyam
Ashvasyam Ashachapitam Enam.
Ashvashayamashatitam
Bhutva Puna Samya Vapur Mahatma.
Bhutva Puna Samya Vapur Mahatma.
Okay, let's read this one.
Sanjana said to Dhritarashtra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, having spoken this to Arjuna, displayed his real four-armed form and at last showed his two-armed form, thus encouraging the fearful Arjuna. Haribol.
So here Sanjay is talking. He says that so in this way Vasudev spoke to Arjuna and displayed his four-armed form, Swakam Rupam, his own four-armed form. He showed it. So we are not really seeing the four-armed form. He's just told us. Sanjay is basically telling us that Krishna has shown this four-armed form to Arjuna, and in this way he encouraged Ashwasan or encouraged Arjuna to encourage the fearful Arjuna by again becoming his Saumya Vapur. Vapur means body, right? Vapu is body, right? Vapu Seva, we do body Seva of Guru sometimes. Saumya Vapu. So Saumya means beautiful body. So in this way, the great one, Mahatma, again became the Saumya Vapu or the beautiful form, the two-handed form again. So he showed this four-armed form. And in the purport, Prabhupada is saying, similarly, Krishna knew. Let's read from here actually. When Krishna appeared as the son of Vasudeva and Devaki, he first of all appeared as four-armed Narayan, but when he was requested by his parents, he transformed himself into an ordinary child in appearance. Similarly, Krishna knew that Arjuna was not interested in seeing a four-handed form, but since Arjuna asked to see this four-handed form, Krishna also showed him that form and then showed himself in his two-handed form again. So Saumya Vapu is a very beautiful form. It is known as the most beautiful form. Prabhupada is describing in the purport. It is a two-handed form. So he's quoting from that incident where Mother Devaki and Vasudev also requested the four-handed form of Krishna that you go back into the child form. At that point, they were basically fearful for him, right? They were so much covered by the Yog Maya that even though they could see that this is God himself, they were still worried that Kamsa will harm him. Even though they can see that this is God, right? But being in the Vatsalya Bhav, they were still worried that Kamsa will come and try to harm him. So he said, so they requested that please go back into your child form again. And here Arjun is also requesting, please show me your four-handed, and then from four-handed Krishna became the two-handed again. So in this way, Arjun has seen three different forms of Krishna. I think we can stop here. Is that okay? Would anyone like to share or add something? Corrections, realizations? So the last few shlokas are actually very long. Prabhupada has given very long purports. And if you would like to read in advance, that would be good. 54th and 55th. 54, those are the last two shlokas. They are very important. They're memorized, and there are like 1.5 hour lectures on each of those verses by different devotees. So they are very important shlokas. They're often quoted. So just if you want to read 54th and 55th. I don't know if we'll be able to finish because the purports on those are really long. We will try next time. Okay. Shall we chant?
I was just amazed, reading this. I was just amazed at how clearly in Bhagavad Gita itself it is given as that Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the 400 form is shown, the the 200 form is described by Krishna himself, and that is the most beautiful form. He talked about Narayan and how the Narayan forms are there, and still 99% of Hindus have this confusion between Narayan and Krishna as which form comes from which. Whereas in Bhagavad Gita, it clearly is explained over here who is Krishna. As a, so many times Arjun says himself, there is, Krishna says himself, Arjuna says it. And and Bhagavad Gita being, our primary text, from then on is Bhagavatam, which describes even these things more in very much detail. But still it is, not clear at times, or most of us are confused initially. I don't know where that conception, where that link got detached, that, the obvious thing was not obvious anymore. So just kind of, I was just thinking about that. Okay.
Actually, this is the problem. I'll show you. Prabhupada has mentioned I did not talk about it because you've talked about it before. So here Prabhupada says in one of the purports. So it is very clearly stated, just exactly what you were saying, Prabhu. So it is very clearly stated in Bhagavad Gita that one who thinks that Krishna is an ordinary person and who misguides the reader by claiming that it is the impersonal Brahman within Krishna speaking is doing the greatest injustice. Krishna is actually shown his universal form and his four-handed Vishnu form. So how can he be an ordinary human being? A pure devotee is not confused by misguiding commentaries on Bhagavad Gita because he knows what is what. The original verses of Bhagavad Gita are as clear as the sun. They do not require lamplight from foolish commentators. So exactly what you were saying, Prabhupada also said the exact same thing, right? And this is we will read it next time. Actually, sorry, we'll read it next time. 51. We'll read it next time. But he says that same thing, exactly the same realization that you had. It is written very, very clearly in Bhagavad Gita. But forget about who is the original form. I mean, that is right. That is fine. Even if somebody is worshipping four-handed form, fine. But the biggest thing is people are confused about who is the God. Like somebody told me, we don't like to read Bhagavad Gita. Keep saying Krishna is God, Krishna is God, or we don't like to follow ISKCON because what about other gods? They only say Krishna is God. They don't like to pray to anybody else. But we are just following the scriptures. So I think the root problem is not having faith in scriptures. So if you think that Bhagavad Gita is not correct, or if you don't have faith in Bhagavad Gita, then the problem starts. That's what I think. That faith in scriptures is the biggest problem.
Mataji, most of them don't even read the Bhagavad Gita, but they will ask those questions based on their conditioning or.
Yeah, it just reminded me that we were supposed to do that lecture with Abhiram Gopal Das Prabhu about developing faith in scriptures. It has never happened, but we need to do that. That's very important.
Yes, we arrange that maybe after this 11th chapter. Okay, shall we stop and just chant very quick?
Recording in progress.
Hare Krishna, thank you everyone for joining.
गौरचंद्राय राधिकाय तदालये
कृष्णाय कृष्ण भक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः हरे कृष्णा
जय
हरि बोल
हरि
हरि बोल
हरे कृष्ण